Okay, yes. Welcome to this part of the lecture. This is part 3 officially so far as we're going through the going concern topic. So far we've basically spoken about part 1. It's 100% like, zero rated supply that would never likely be tested at postgrad level. Then in part 2 we spoke about mainly mainly taxable supplies. So there's like apportionment that basically also takes place there. So we basically just concentrated on the actual part of the exempt side having to be the one that would likely not get the portion which is zero rated. So that's basically what part 2 was basically focusing on. So like say that you're partly getting taxed on a portion which was initially an denied supply or an exempt supply. So basically that's what the main emphasis of part 2 was all about. We spoke about those dynamics so far as part 2 was concerned, and we spoke about the underlying implications as well that could in the future be a subsequent change in use adjustment that could take effect as well. So that was that. And now with part 3, if there was mainly taxable supplies affecting the actual zero rating having to be concentrated on the non-exempt side so far as the mainly taxable supply zero rating going concern concept was concerned. That was part 2. So if we were to take the same logical reasoning so far as part 2's and we filter that through to part 3, we'd have the same principles applicable, only this time it's the non-taxable side which basically gets to be mainly non-taxable supplies that basically within part 3, and the zero rating part is concentrated once again on the taxable supply side that would likely be the one which gets to be zero rated. So what are we saying within all these implications is that the essence of the logical reasoning is pretty much the same relating the part 2 and part 3 topics together. However, with part 3, the main emphasis is basically based on the fact that yes indeed zero rating is partly based on the taxable supply portion, and there's also going to be another part which basically makes up part of part 3, which is the non-taxable side of the actual taxable supplies that would likely attract output VAT. So there's gonna be what we obviously have come to learn at this point, that being apportionment. So apportionment takes effect as well. So the seller in this instance would also have to levy out, an output VAT that would likely be given rise by the actual non-exempt side. And there's obviously an underlying part that also kind of like says, wait a minute, we basically going to be paying VAT now on a service or a taxable or non-taxable supply that used to be an exempt service, and we suddenly now just going to be levied like output VAT on this. What's the justice in that? So there comes that whole concept once again of change in use. The same principles of change in use would now be thrown back into this whole mix as well. So that's the whole difference between part 3 and part 2. So change in use does take effect as in now from the perspective of the buyer, because yet now I have to levy, like a VAT output, so when you think about it from two bases, there's now, like, we've basically been zero rating the wholesaling price of going concern so far as part 1 and part 2, whereas with part 3 we're not zero rating the wholesaling price. We basically apportioning the selling price. So part of the selling price, which is a taxable supply, gets to be zero rated, whereas the part which is a non-exempt supply is no longer zero rated, but only going to be recognizing an output VAT that the actual seller has to now process through. But as an injustice, SARS is basically allowing him to at least, like, allow changing use adjustment like taking place, and that's basically where we are in terms of the dynamics that have now kicked in so far as part 3 is concerned. So it adds in a bit an additional layer from where we were so far as part 2, partly similar, just that the selling price in this regard is basically apportioned, whereas in the two cases, as we've rightly stated, the selling price was outrightly like zero rated. So these are the new dynamics that we just have to conjure up as we basically tackling like part 3, which we're gonna like maybe unpack on the actual whiteboard. So just hang in there and let's see what we can basically unravel so far as the whiteboard is concerned, and hopefully we'll knock this one home as well. Alright then.